Hello and welcome. Today's video is a compilation of my top 10 tips for supporting autism. Let's get straight into it. Number 10, timers. Visual timers and timers can be a great strategy to use across different settings to support autistic people. How does a visual timer differ to other timers? A visual timer has a coloured disc or dial that disappears minute by minute as the timer ticks down, allowing a child to view the time lapsing at a glance. Time can be an abstract and difficult concept to grasp, and so can become a source of anxiety for autistic children. Transitions, challenging tasks, and having to wait for favourite activities can cause significant stress. Timers assist autistic people with predictability and in turn to feel safe by answering questions such as, how much longer until this activity is finished? How long until I can play or relax? When is it going to be time to get in the car or go to music class or have lunch? Here are 5 ways that timers can be an effective tool when introducing the complex idea of time to autistic children. Number 1, as a countdown for challenging tasks. Autistic people can find challenging tasks highly stressful and sometimes unbearable, depending on the activity. Using a timer, especially a visual timer, might be the difference between an autistic person being able to participate in such a task or not, because visual timers concretely show to the minute when the activity will be finished. 2, for smoother transitions. Transitions can cause anxiety for autistic people because they're often unpredictable, unstructured, and inconsistent. Visual timers are ideal for tricky transitions as they provide a concrete visual of how long it is until the next activity. For example, you have 5 minutes to pack away and get ready for lunch. In 10 minutes, we're going to get in the car to go to speech therapy. Or, you have 5 minutes until the bell rings and then we'll need to use the bathroom and get a drink to get ready for class. 3, turn taking. Timers can be fantastic for assisting autistic people to take turns, especially when it comes to highly anticipated and preferred activities, or even when both talking and listening is required, such as during conversations and collaborative group work. Timers allow everyone to have an uninterrupted turn for an equal period of time and have the added bonus of providing a sense of fairness. 4, timers provide predictability, structure, organisation, and routine. Using timers ensures that routines are going to be followed, whether at home or in the classroom. This can be enormously reassuring for an autistic person, as they can rely on the fact that when the timer beeps, it's time for the next activity. This can again alleviate anxiety and provide predictability. 5, assist with the development of time management and self-organisation. Autistic people can take longer to consistently understand what different time increments actually feel like. In other words, to fine-tune their internal clock. Frequently using timers for different kinds of activities such as transitions, non-preferred tasks, and favourite activities like leisure, screen, break, and snack times can assist with the development of time management. Having timers displayed during tests, exams, and independent work times can assist autistic people over time to slow down and not rush tasks that require a high level of focus. You can experiment to see which kind of timer is best for different situations. For example, liquid or sand timers can double as sensory toys for younger children, while digital timers are highly appropriate for use with young people of middle and secondary school age. Number 9 is comic strip drawings and conversations. Comic strip drawings and conversations can be used to assist autistic people with social skill development. Created by Carol Gray, comic strip conversations are an ideal tool for teaching autistic children and young people social communication skills, whether to do with past peer interactions, present conversations, or the navigation of future social situations. These comic strip style drawings should contain consistent, predictable symbols. These include speech bubbles, which contain dialogue, thought bubbles, which represent what people in the interaction are or might be thinking, and colours to represent emotions. When engaging in social interactions, nonverbal social cues, unspoken thoughts, and the feelings of others can be abstract and difficult to comprehend for autistic people. Using these visuals to represent the various elements of conversations can help to encourage understanding. So, what do you need? You can use a whiteboard and markers or paper and drawing materials. Several websites also offer free printable empty comic strips, which can help with sequencing. Drawing on an app or tablet might also be preferred by the autistic person. This activity should be led by the child or young person and used when they are calm. So, how do you use comic strip drawings? You can use a comic strip drawing to recreate a past social interaction in visual form. This can be especially helpful to do if an autistic child or young person has become upset or frustrated by a social situation and is finding it difficult to understand exactly what happened, the reactions of peers, or the meaning of specific words or phrases that were used. Getting to the bottom of what actually occurred can be the first step to addressing reparations with peers and possible actions for next time. Purposely using comic strip drawings to visually document a conversation as it is happening in real time is a great way to encourage an autistic person to proactively practice their social communication skills in a safe and supportive environment. This can be an excellent opportunity to identify potential social misunderstandings, provide helpful feedback to inform future interactions, and even build a concrete resource or handbook that can be referred to when needed. During this process, it is especially important that the autistic person lead the interaction and the parent, carer, or teacher acts in a supporting role. Starting with small talk or a favourite topic can be helpful to get the conversation started. It can also be beneficial to sit across from each other rather than side by side, and while both people can access the drawing materials, the autistic person is largely in control of the conversation, while the adult is guiding. And finally, comic strip drawings can be used as a kind of social story for future situations. You can use them to outline what might happen during social interactions at upcoming events, especially activities that might be causing the autistic person anxiety. They can also provide alternative social language choices for a social situation that might have gone wrong on a previous occasion. Even the most simple drawings can be highly effective at teaching social skills. Number 8, the visual timetable. Autistic people thrive and feel a greater sense of safety when the day ahead is as predictable as possible. Outlining the main events each day, whether at school or at home, can help a child or young person to feel calmer and more in control. Visuals, such as pictures and photographs, are a recognised strategy to assist autistic people with comprehension, especially when faced with anxiety or the feeling of being overwhelmed, as this can impair the way auditory information is processed. There are a few ways to incorporate a visual timetable into your routine. The idea is to use a visual to represent each activity in chronological order as they will occur throughout the day. A visual timetable can include the whole day or just part of the day. The timetable should be presented and verbally explained. That could be when your child wakes up, early on in the school day, or at the start of a long activity session such as a sports carnival or family celebration. When creating a visual timetable, you can use photographs, purchase a visual starter pack, or acquire a paid subscription to a program with printable visuals such as BoardMaker. As I've said in some of my other videos, I use a combination of all three for my autistic child and in my classroom. This helps a child to become familiar with a variety of visuals because their community settings will likely use visuals in various forms. The simplest way to create a visual timetable is to use just paper and pen and draw out a basic summary of the events in the day. Depending on your child and how they respond to their visual timetable, you can include more or less detail. Checking off each activity on the timetable as it is finished can provide a sense of control and achievement for the child, while also assisting them to understand which part of the day they are up to and what events remain. This can be done in a few different ways. You can tick off each event as it is completed or simply cross out events. If using laminated visuals and visual boards, you can use an erasable whiteboard marker to do this. You can also take each visual off physically and put it in what is called a posting box, such as an old tissue box or cardboard box. With a bit more effort, you can also make your own finished paper, then cut it to size and attach it to the back of each visual, turning each one over as activities are completed. You'll need Velcro on both sides of the visual if you do this. Secondary students will usually have a printed weekly timetable, as they often need to change rooms and teachers several times a day. Enlarging and colour-coding this individual timetable to make it more visually prominent can assist an autistic person with planning, organisation and predictability. So what is the difference between a visual timetable and a visual schedule? A visual schedule breaks just one activity from the timetable down into very specific steps to assist a child to understand exactly what will happen in detail for that activity. A visual or daily timetable is a summary in chronological order of all of the activities in a child's day, where one visual represents each activity. Using a visual timetable on a daily basis can help alleviate the anxiety and resulting challenging behaviours that autistic people can experience and exhibit in association with sudden changes to routine and when there is a lack of structure. Number 7 is social stories and how to write them. What is a social story? Developed and trademarked by Carol Gray in 1991, social stories explicitly explain a social situation to autistic people. While research shows that social stories can have a positive effect on behaviour, I have witnessed firsthand with my autistic daughter just how effective social stories can be for lowering anxiety around new situations, improving positive participation in social activities, encouraging appropriate interactions with others, and even managing emotions. You can write a social story about virtually anything: going to the doctor, flying on an aeroplane, appropriate personal space, managing anger, playing a board game, attending school assembly, sports carnivals, going shopping, or the arrival of a new baby, just to name a few. So how do you write one? Social stories can be written in the first or third person and can use past, present, or future tense. They should be explicit about where something is going to take place, what will happen, and what behaviour is expected of the child. They can be in the form of a printed book, a slideshow, a video, or an audio recording, bearing in mind that visuals assist with comprehension. Social stories should be read to or played for the child regularly leading up to an event or situation, or on a routine basis when a child is learning a new skill, such as personal space or how to appropriately take turns. Once the child is comfortable with the situation and the required skills, you might slowly phase out the social story. A very simple social story might be written like this. My name is Billy. I am starting school this year. Mum will drive me to school in the morning. My teacher will be Mrs. Smith. This is my classroom where I will spend most of my day. I will hang my bag here when I get to school. I will eat my morning tea and lunch here. This is where I will go to use the toilet or bathroom. I'm going to make friends at school. It will be fun. Mum will pick me up at the end of the day. A social story should be specific to the individual child and so could include more or less detail. Depending on the type of social story, you can also include steps for routines, such as using the toilet. Number 6, a first-then chart and how to use one. A first-then chart is a visual support tool used to motivate a child to engage in a less preferred activity. The child first completes the less preferred task, which is immediately followed by a favourite or chosen activity. A first-then chart can be easily made at home, either by hand or on the computer. You also need visuals, either photos, pre-made visuals purchased as a pack, or printable visuals from a subscription program such as Boardmaker. I use a combination of all of the above as it helps children to develop flexibility around the use of visuals. This is beneficial as the various settings in a child's community will likely use different types of visuals. It can be used in two ways. One, for shorter tasks that take place in one particular setting, such as the home, a therapy session, or in the classroom. Starting with shorter tasks allows the child to become familiar with the first-then strategy. Encouraging the child to choose the second activity can help to increase engagement and motivation. Once the child is comfortable with first then, it can be used as a two-step visual schedule for longer activities that take place in multiple settings. This can be helpful when a child finds waiting for a favourite activity challenging, especially when something they dislike comes first. You can also use this second type of first then chart in conjunction with a more detailed visual schedule that breaks down the first activity into more specific steps. See video number 4 for more information about how to do this. A first then chart can become a predictable, effective visual tool to support transitions and introduce new and unfamiliar activities. Number 5, the wait card, a strategy for teaching turn taking. A wait card is simple and easy to make and requires very few materials. You simply cut a circle out of any coloured cardboard and write the word wait on both sides. You can laminate it if you wish. Red can be a good colour to use as it's often associated with stop. I feel that when introducing this strategy, it's best to have only 2 people taking turns, either 2 children or a child and an educator or parent. One person holds the wait card and they are, of course, waiting for their turn while the other person is having their turn, usually with the child's preferred toy. After a short interlude, the turn takers swap so that now the other person is holding the wait card and waiting for their turn, while the other is having their turn with the toy. Repeat these steps for as long as possible, swapping the wait card back and forth as you take turns. When you first start using a wait card, you may have to start with very short turn-taking intervals, like a few seconds, and slowly build up to longer waiting and turn-taking periods as the child gets more used to the strategy. The initial waiting period will of course depend on the child. Some children may be able to wait for up to 20 or even 30 seconds for a turn straight away, while others will find even a few seconds challenging at first. Having a visual, tangible object to hold whilst waiting can help with comprehension and understanding and improve the ability of the child to wait over time. Initially, a child might be able to sustain this entire turn-taking activity for only a minute or 2, but with practice you can increase the length of play each time, even if only by a few seconds. I also use a wait card at home when my autistic daughter has to wait for something in particular because I can't attend to her immediately. Regularly using this strategy has dramatically enhanced her ability to wait when necessary. Number 4, the visual schedule. Essentially, this strategy is about taking a challenging routine or transition, breaking it down into steps and supporting each step with visuals in the form of a schedule. Every person with autism is uniquely and wonderfully made and will have different parts of the day or week that they find difficult. In our household, it's bath time. Sometimes when an autistic person has to engage in a routine or event that's challenging or overstimulating, a fight or flight response can be triggered, and the way that they process auditory information, such as speech and verbal directions, can become impaired. Supporting these moments with visuals can be helpful. Here's my example of how to do this in practical terms. Bath time was becoming increasingly difficult for my autistic daughter. She would resist getting in, then resist getting out, quickly spiralling into meltdown. I broke this routine down into steps and paired each one with a visual to create a schedule, starting and ending with activities that she enjoys, dinner and bedtime respectively. I used a combination of photos and pictures to help build flexibility around the use of visuals. The first time we used this, I verbally explained the whole routine several times throughout the day, listing each step while pointing to the visual. When bath time came, I kept the schedule close at hand and again pointed to each step as we went through the routine. I'll never forget how different that bath time was. Now when it's been a difficult day or my daughter is very tired or suffering from sensory overload, this is my go-to to help her calmly get through to bedtime. You can use this strategy for any challenging routine, either in the classroom or at home. Some of my favourites include school assembly, going to the doctor or dentist, getting ready for school or playgroup, and attending family celebrations. Number 3, find the rhythm. This idea was introduced to me only recently by an occupational therapist, but what does find the rhythm mean? Well, it's no secret that people with autism often demonstrate an aptitude for patterns. This includes auditory patterns found in music, rhymes, song lyrics, and stories. These all have rhythm. Rituals and routines are also forms of rhythm. Rhythms can be soothing and self-regulating for people with autism. But how do you intentionally incorporate rhythm into your home or classroom? At home, you can encourage your child to find favourite rhythms that help them self regulate. For my daughter, this translates to reading Julia Donaldson rhyming books, listening to music that follows familiar chord progressions like those commonly found in pop songs, and establishing routines for daily activities like getting dressed and bath time. Tapping into these rhythms when my daughter exhibits signs of being overwhelmed can help calm her and sometimes delay a meltdown until we can get to a safe place. She also uses them to self soothe post meltdown. This might look like reading or reciting a favourite book, playing a favourite song, naming each item of clothing, or following a routine like organising her toys. Tapping into her favourite rhythms are often what will make her smile again. In the classroom, you can introduce rhythms by using daily routines and lesson sequences, seating plans, visual or written timetables, lesson equipment lists, having clear classroom organisation, and either playing music during work time or allowing students to individually listen to music while they work. Number 2, choose from 2. Using choices to support autism is certainly not a new idea, but it can be enormously empowering. I use this strategy more than any other, especially when my daughter or students exhibit signs of anxiety. It can be as simple as, which plate would you like? Which pajamas tonight? Nappy on first or shirt? Which shoes today? Which book should we read first? Choices can foster responsibility whilst also providing a sense of power, such as which blanket for the baby, which bib, which toy, which lunchbox should we pack? Should we put crackers in this container or the round one? Will you carry your plate to the table or should I? In the classroom, choices can include things like working with a partner or alone, writing on the computer or in a book, sitting on the floor or at a table, using pen or pencil, and choosing from 2 rewards. Giving a choice can immediately provide a feeling of control and increase student motivation and productivity. So, how do you know when to give a choice and when not to? A good rule of thumb can be to ask, is offering this choice going to affect others in a negative way? For example, choosing a particular cup or bowl is very different to choosing whether the family goes to visit grandma or not. And why just 2 choices and not more? Too many choices can be overwhelming, especially for those who find problem solving challenging. And finally, number 1, the notebook. Recommended to me by an occupational therapist, this is one of the easiest and most effective strategies in my tool bag. You don't need to be an artist to quickly create visuals for regular schedules, changes to routine, and unwelcome surprises. I use this daily with my daughter for when things are unexpectedly cancelled, if someone is running late, if I accidentally run out of a staple item, or if something is suddenly added to our routine, like having to stop for petrol. I've used this notebook when a favourite piece of clothing suddenly needed to be washed and when we once needed to reverse the order of activities during our home occupational therapy session to accommodate a sleeping baby. I also use this for transitions, such as leaving the house. Creating a visual list in here of all the things we need to do before we can actually go helps to keep my daughter calm and gives her a sense of control, as this is a transition she finds difficult. As a teacher, I have used this when there is a new person in the classroom, such as a casual teacher, or if there is a special assembly, such as during a celebration week. It also works well as a spur of the moment first then chart. As always, I'd love to hear any questions or comments that you might have. See you next time.